The last lesson of Chapter 10 is called Properties of Rational Numbers, although more accurately, it is the operations with rational numbers, adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. We need to remember two properties specifically from the beginning of the year, although I've listed all five we talked about. The two important ones are the associative and commutative properties. They basically say if we have all addition or all multiplication, we can rearrange the problem however we want. We can move parentheses around, we can move numbers around. I will add the one rule this year now. As you move numbers around, the sign that is in front of it travels with it. So if we have a negative number and we move it, the negative sign goes with it and will most likely just become a minus sign. So let me show you how this works. I've got some expressions here that I'm told to evaluate, which just means take them down to simplest form. Right now, I have, according to this, to do -1.5 plus 4. I don't want to do that. Those have different signs. I actually have to subtract. 4 doesn't even have a fraction part. Meh. I can instead move the 2.5 all the way to the front and just shift the -1.5 and the plus 4 over one place in the problem. And I can leave those parentheses right where they were. They don't need to travel with the 1.5 and the 4. They can stay in the first spot. And that makes life easy because 2.5 minus 1.5, that negative sign travels with the 1.5 and it becomes a minus sign because negative and minus are the same thing. 2.5 minus 1.5 is just 1. And 1 plus 4 is 5. Using the associative and commutative properties can make life easy. This next problem features all multiplication. So we are going to have to change that -1 1/3 into -4/3 to do our multiplying, because you can't multiply with a mixed number. Remember, you must make it improper. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 1 is my 4. The negative sign sticks with it. I'm actually also, because that denominator is 3, I'm going to drag the 3 from the end to the beginning and leave the parentheses where they were. This 3 now we could think of as being over 1, and remember that the diagonal 3's would cancel. That means in the parentheses, all that's really left is the -4. We just have to do -4 times 5 now. 4 times 5 is 20, and a positive times a negative is negative. With these decimals, if we reorder this problem, because I see this 0.35 and 0.65, they will actually combine nicely with each other. Because 35 and 65 combine to make 1. Those two decimal parts combine to make 1. So 6.35 plus 0.65 is just 7. And now 7 plus 1.42, well, 7 plus 1 is 8, and the 0.42 just comes along. The next problem is just regular multiplication, nothing fancy. So make -6 a fraction so that it's over 1. Make the mixed number 4 3/8 a fraction. 8 times 4 is 32, plus 3 is 35. That's 35 over 8. 6 and 8 reduce to 3 and 4 respectively. And now we can multiply. 3 times 35 is 105. 3 times 30 is 90. 3 times 5 is 15. 90 and 15 make my 105. 4 is by itself on the bottom. The whole thing is still negative, because remember, we had a negative times a positive. Now, how many 4s can we take out of 105? 21. And realize I brought my negative sign with me. That's why it's -21. 21 4s. I'm sorry, 21 4s is not enough. It's 26. 25 4s is 100. 26 4s is 104. I'm taking 104 away from 105. That's just 1 left. So we've got negative 26 and a fourth. Anything plus 0 is just the thing. Anything times 1 is just the thing. Those are just quick examples of the identities. This now, we've got decimals, we've got parentheses, addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Hey, that looks like PEMDAS. And it's exactly what it is. So, we have to do what's in parentheses first. 7.4 minus 1.8, lining up our decimal points. Borrow, 14 minus 8 is 6, 6 minus 1 is 5. So let's see, we're going to have negative 32 plus 4 times 5.6 divided by 0.04. Next up, we have to do 5.6 times 4. We multiply and divide from left to right. So since multiplication is first, we'll do that first. So I have to do 5.6 times 4. I'm just going to go ahead and do that right here. 4 times 6 is 24, carry a 2. 4 times 5 is 20, with 2 is 22. 1 decimal place in that. So we now have negative 32 plus 22.4 divided by 0.04. Next up, we have to divide. We have to move this decimal 2 places, which means we extend the division bar, tack a 0 on, put our decimal point above the division bar so we don't forget it, in case we need it. I think we'll be okay. 4 goes into 22 5 times. That's 20. When we subtract, we get 2. Drop the 4 straight down. 4 goes into 24 6 times. Perfectly. And 4 goes into nothing 0 times. So after we divide, we have negative 32 plus 560. These numbers now have different signs, so we have to subtract them. 10 minus 2 is 8, 5 minus 3 is 2, and the 5 just carries. And we keep the sign from the bigger of the two numbers. 560 is definitely bigger than 32. It's positive, so the answer is positive. And one more of these. And give me 1 second, because this is... Just need to do that so it'll let me write. Now we have parentheses, exponents, addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. First up, we have to do what's inside the parentheses. So we have to do 3 and 7 tenths minus 3 and 1/5. Well, 1/5 needs to change to 2 tenths. We need a common denominator to subtract. That's 3 and 5 tenths. 7 minus 2 is 5. So that's really 3.5 when we do what's in the parentheses. So we're going to have negative 5 times 3.5 plus 2 to the third power divided by negative 2. Next in the order of operations are the exponents. So we're still going to have negative 5 times 3. Actually, we're going to multitask here. Since this is multiplication, I'm not going to be able to use 3.5. I have to change that to 7/2. And we can go ahead and change the form right now. That's okay. 2 to the third power is 2 times 2 times 2. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. Parentheses are gone, exponents are gone, so now we're going to multiply and or divide from left to right. And we have one of each to do. So we will multiply first since it's farther to the left. Negative 5, remember we can think of as negative 5 over 1, times 7/2. 5 times 7 is 35 halves, and it is still negative. Plus, and we will convert that back to a mixed number later. Plus, now We can actually go ahead and do this division right now as well, since it was separated from anything else by this plus sign. 8 divided by 2 is 4. A positive divided by a negative is negative. So this is going to be negative 35 halves plus a negative is minus, and let's make that a fraction so that everything looks alike. Well, our fractions need to have a common denominator. So negative 35 over 2 minus 8 over 2. I'm just going to double up the entire second fraction. These two numbers have the same sign. Negative 35 halves minus 8 halves. So same sign says you keep that sign and add the numbers. 35 and 8 make 43. We just have to convert this now to its mixed form. So how many 2's can you take out of 43? You can take 21 2's from 43. 21 2's is 42, so there's 1 left. The mixed number form of our answer is negative 21 and a half.